Hey, I wanted to record a few thoughts about tic-tac-toe, maybe help you with some of these functions. So first, let me just play it. And then I'll bring up this little Word document. So 9 spaces. And there's a little table that's supposed to kind of do this, but basically I would think of these as 9 inputs. So however it works, the player would be selecting, a square to play in. And then based on which token they are, I'm going to put that piece in. So for instance, if I start the game, I'm going to be X, so I would start in the middle. Oh God, this noise is going to be. And then the computer immediately plays. There's some, AI back there that's sort of thinking about where they're going to play based on where I played. Or maybe it doesn't think about where I played. It just, does whatever it wants to do. I don't know. Let's see if, oh, this is interesting because it started with an O. That's not typical, and that's not the way I want you to think about the game. I would think about it as X always going first. So let's go over here to this Word doc, and I'm going to pull up a couple of things. So the first thing is that typically we would think about the board as an array. And so, for instance, the initial board state would just be an array of strings. These strings have a space in them, and that's it. It could really be, an array of null or an array of empty strings or something. But this is one way that you could conceive of the board. So from the program's perspective, the board is an array of information. And then the inputs, as I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So one critical piece about connecting the player's input saying, oh, I want to play in the 5th space, which is the center, which is a great place to start the game, is that in an array, we index starting at 0. So there's the index that we're looking at when we're talking about the 5th space is not the index 5. Let me get my annotate back here. Right, so this is the 0 index, this is the 1st index, this is the 2nd index, this is the 3rd index, and so on. And so what you can do is you can sort of think about, well, these are the indexes that I want. When I'm talking about the array, or when I'm talking to the array, say I want to put something in the array, or say I want to check the value at a specific index, that's an index. And then on the other side, there's an input, which is the numbers 1 through 9. This is how a person would kind of think about playing. So that's one kind of expectation I want you to go in with, is thinking about this mismatch between the numbers 1 through 9, which are my options to play, but the fact that an array has indices from 0 to 8 if it's got 9 spaces to hold information. So I wanted to show you that. Let me also pull up an example of some existing code. This is a project that I did for a boot camp. And it's written in JavaScript. So it's, again, the important parts of the function structure are, you're going to have to come up with a name. In the case of the 3 functions I suggested, I gave you a name. You're going to have to tell me what it does. This is actual code. But, if you were writing pseudocode, you might say, first I'm going to check to see if this variable turn, when divided by 2, has a remainder of 0. Turn is here it's a global variable. That we don't have to make sense of what that is, but the pseudocode is just writing words that explain this is what I expect to do in the code. And the only thing that's kind of important at the end is thinking about the return of the function, which is once this function is executed, do I need something in order to move forward? So the clearest example of that, we're actually looking at it here. This in my code is called the player function. I think in the assignment, I called it the current player function. But notice that the return of this function is either the string X or the string O. So in other words, it's giving me the token X or O that I need in order to make a play. And so again, this is a function which is not technically an absolute requirement for TicTacToe. It's just kind of a way to use information and get the next player's token in order to facilitate, making plays without having to track. Like I'm holding X in some variable, and now I'm holding O in some variable. So that's all that the function is about. So again, what you're producing here is the name of the function, some pseudocode, and then what does it return? The return could be nothing. If it's not important at the end of the function to produce something to be able to use, then you could just say don't return anything. Don't ignore the question about returning. The answer is either I'm returning something and this is what it is, or I'm not returning anything. My function is not returning anything. Okay, I hope that helps. I don't recommend check winner as a function to write because it's kind of complicated. But if you want to challenge, it's basically the question of how would I look at the board state and determine whether or not somebody has won. So at any point, if somebody wins, like if I put X here, they're going to put O there, they win. How do we know the game's over instead of we keep playing until the board is full? Checking if the board is full would be another function you could write. Okay, there's some ideas for you. Hope that helps. This is our last heavy duty computer science-y task.